Hello everybody, welcome to The Take. I'm your host Krishna Mano, and in today's episode, I will be interviewing Holly McCormack, a small business owner from Northwest Georgia who is running as a Democratic candidate in this year's midterm elections for the 14th District House seat. Mrs. McCormack, thank you so much for joining me in today's episode. It's an honor to have this opportunity.
You are very welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Could you please share a little bit about yourself and your campaign to our viewers?
Sure. So my name's Holly. I am the Democrat that's going to unseat Marjorie Taylor Greene. I am a mom. I'm a working mom, 2 kids. I have a 12-year-old and a 17-year-old. So a boy and a girl. I'm from Northwest Georgia. I have been here my family's been here for generations, but I live at the very tippy top of Georgia. So right below Chattanooga, Tennessee, and a couple hours above Atlanta. My family has been here forever. My mom's side is right over the line. And so we're, 2 different states that are basically both on the line. But we are helping other people has always been super important to me. And so, just standing up for what's right, making sure people have the resources that they need. That's always been, like I said, really important to me. So when Northwest Georgia has been overlooked for a long time because, like I said, Chattanooga in comparison to us is a big city. And then Atlanta right below us. So it really is just we've been completely overlooked with resources and whatever else. And so there was that void in leadership for a long time, long time, well before Marge got elected. And so, that's how she swooped in and was able to do that. I think because people want more. And instead what they got was someone who is hateful and just offends pretty much everyone under the sun that doesn't look like her. And it's just not the way that the people that I know here in Northwest Georgia, it's not how they behave. And so, we're good, hardworking people that treat each other well, and so that care about their neighbors. So anyway, when I saw that happen and, I've got 2 teenagers, it means a lot to me what example they see. And I didn't want to have to continue saying, kids, that's not how we act. You see what's happening. That's not how we act. So, after the last 2 years now that we've had as a country. And like you said, of, how you came to start your show, it was the same feeling for me of, there's so much out there that isn't right. This isn't how America is supposed to be. And I don't think it's representative of most Americans. I know it's not representative of Northwest Georgia, like I said. So I wanted to do what I could to help get it back on track. And try to, like our first a year ago slogan, whatever you want to call it, cut through the noise and get back to work. It really was a great first thing to start with because all of the nation, the national news, all the divisiveness and the misinformation that makes that worse and worse. It's got nothing to do with most people. It's just inflammatory. So we really, really focus on, and there's no winning. There's no winning when we're fighting like that. So it's not productive. So that's why we focus a lot on service and, what all families need. It's not divisive stuff. It's roof over your head and food on the table for the kids and a good opportunity when they grow up. And so we're just focusing on that kitchen table issues so that we can combat the misinformation and the divisiveness.
And like you were saying earlier, you launched your campaign in early 2021 to run as the U.S. representative for Georgia's 14th district to stop the incumbent representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from serving a second term. And recently, as I discussed with Senator Debbie Stabenow in a previous episode, there are many efforts in the federal and state governments to restrict voters' rights, which is something supported by your opponent. Could you please share what you've been doing to ensure that these laws don't affect the results of your upcoming election?
Absolutely. Well, I'll get to the most exciting part second, but when the voting law, when the bill came out last year, we first went and found the very first election that came about, and went and handed out bottled water in front of the courthouse, just to kind of show how crazy it is, how absolutely insane it is. And obviously, where they will pick and choose to enforce that law isn't at that small special election that the first one that came up, but really to just shine a light on what's in the bill, and poke fun at how silly it is, really. But we are up against a lot in Georgia. Not even just with the misinformation, that's a whole thing in itself, but with the voter suppression that we're still dealing with. So one of the ways that we're combating that is we've launched the biggest voter registration effort campaign that's ever been done in Northwest Georgia. A lot of our county parties, individual county parties, and even some of them working together are doing voter registration. And that's wonderful. But never been able to do it at this scale, because without resources, or help statewide or otherwise. So even before the primary, I knew that we've got a lot of work to do and it's going to take time. And so I wasn't going to wait until I win the primary, because that's not enough time to get this work done. So, just like Fair Fight did and Stacey Abrams, the work that they've done for years is what enabled us to send Senator Ossoff and Warnock to DC and flip Georgia and flip the Senate. Like, that was historic. So, and that didn't happen instantly. If Stacey had told somebody 5-10 years ago that Georgia would be blue, they'd have, laughed at you. But it took a lot of work. So we're just bringing that work up to Northwest Georgia. Same thing, same playbook she's been doing for years and years. And, that's going to, when people that are typically not engaged, they're not reached out to, they don't know, when early voting is or any of that stuff, or who's running or about these candidates or anything like that. When there isn't voter outreach done, then people aren't going to participate. And then you throw in the laws that are not needed, and it's to keep people from voting. You pile all that together and we're not getting the majority of voices being heard. So that's our focus, is to reach out to folks that have not been reached out to ever. Minorities, we're having organizers in specific communities. The Hispanic community is very difficult, I think, on both sides to be able to get into and really interact and get them involved. And so that's a focus that we're doing. Big focus on younger people. And I have to watch myself to not call them kids, because my kids are that age. And so I call them kids. But the younger generation, like you, are so fired up to fix the injustices in the world. And it's so exciting, so exciting. So, we're working hard on those things. And I know that with getting more people engaged and participating, and reaching out to folks that never have been talked to, we can flip this seat.
Mm-hmm. And It's really important because, like, we've seen that it works. Like you said, last year with the special election, it was because people were fighting against the voter suppression that we were actually able to flip those seats.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, people standing in line all day for hours, like need medication, not to have food, all of these things. There's so much. And honestly, and I'm small rabbit trail, but what got me on this journey of thinking about running was honestly just educating myself on history that wasn't taught, or it was skimmed over in Southern schools where I went. And in the last 2 years with, like I said, everything going on in the country, that's how I dug in to say, what can I do? Like, we need to learn from the past so that we obviously don't repeat it. But I think as an empathetic person, and most people are good, they just need to know what's happened, and then they'll want to change. They'll want to do their part. So same with voting rights, same thing.
Mm-hmm. And even before the current changes in the political atmosphere, have you always wanted to run for a public office?
No. No. I always have been a servant heart, really, and to just jump in when something needs doing. That's to a fault. I had to learn to balance that. But it really, ever since I was a little kid, injustice has always been a big hot button for me. So legislation, or in the legislative branch just seemed like a good fit to fix things that are old, that are on the books, and the new ones that are on the books that aren't good. As well as, so I started thinking about it more over 2020. But then, of course, when Marge was successfully elected, ran unopposed at the end, and is not from here, she's from outside of Atlanta, then it really it lit a fire under me, because there's, of course, the other legislation is Senate, and I love our senators. So no need there. So
currently, the most important upcoming election for you is the Democratic primaries in May to see who will represent the party in November's midterm elections for Georgia's 14th district. The differences between the incumbent representative and your campaign are very clear. But how is your campaign different from that of other Democratic candidates running in your district?
Well, first, I'll say I'm very glad that Northwest Georgia is going to have a competitive primary. We've never had a competitive Democratic primary. In several of the last elections, or in the last 10 years, there wasn't even a Democrat on the ballot. So you can't win if you don't try. So there's been a lot of not even attempting it that's been going on. But I will say, my family's been here forever, as I mentioned before. And I really feel strongly that we need representation that has been through what most of the people in the district deal with. And, I'm a mom. I raised my kids here in public schools. I'm a small business owner. I have both school and business came to be 100% digital, during the shutdown. I had to run a second line to my house for us to have enough internet to be able to support work and two schools. I know what it's like to choose between, do I pay a bill? Do I put groceries on the table? Am I sick enough to go to the doctor, or the kids? I was just talking about this with the lady that I just left at the food bank, the owner. You get a certain empathy when you've gone through it yourself. It's understanding. I don't think that somebody who's never dealt with it can successfully represent the people that are dealing with it. And that's what makes me uniquely capable of representing and fighting for these people. I know their problems because I currently live the struggles. It's happening right now. So I think that's what makes me different. Another way that I'm different is the voter registration, for example, is just one prong of our, I'm the only candidate that has a winning coalition to unseat her in November. I'm not being short-sighted to just win the primary, because that doesn't get us to the goal in November. We have to be looking at who would be the most likely to unseat her and get good representation. And, I was raised, I'd say the majority of the people in my family are conservative. So I'm not just focusing and saying what liberals would want me to say, we're going to need the Democrats to come together. We're going to need a whole lot of the middle, which is where most people are, that they just want a solid person with good values who will do the right thing and fight for them. And then we're going to need some Republicans too. That's just the numbers. And so we need to be able to give them a good choice, a solid person who shares the same values as they do and might not agree with everything. None of us do, but on the big stuff, we do. And I'm that candidate. I'm the candidate that someone who is typically Republican or conservative will split their ballot for. And that's what we need to make this change in Northwest Georgia.
And I never realized what, like you said, that some counties like your own county have no Democratic or any party representation for them, even though America is a country that was founded on representing the people. So it's really important that there is a competitive primary and a competitive midterm in November all over the country.
Well, that's the thing. I'm so glad you asked that question, because it's such a different world. I mean, the majority of our district is very rural. And so it's just a different world. Talking about access to broadband internet doesn't make sense to someone who lives, near a city or in a city. But so just like knowing or not knowing that there wasn't a Democrat, or that the level of effort that has been tried in the past is very low. People don't know that nationwide. So to actually, like you asked that question and to get to explain what it's like, and that we really are making history in doing these things, is really neat. The perspective is needed to know what we're up against here.
Yeah. And you talk a lot about how your dad, a retired Army veteran, and your mom taught you that hard work was of utmost importance. On your website, you say, "Before Daddy would let me drive as a teenager, he made me learn to rotate my tires and change the oil. And Mama taught me how to knock out a wall or anything else that she could dream up with home improvements." How has this confidence and independence that was instilled in you from your childhood aided your efforts to serve society?
Great question. There's a tendency when things are big, when they're overwhelming, to just kind of wonder who's going to fix it or wait around on somebody else to do it. Maybe there's someone more qualified that can do it. I don't really do that. It's like, we can learn how to do it. We can pull together and get it done. We can hire brilliant staff like I have. But I've always been someone that jumps in, learns on the way, and we can do really huge things when we just don't let fear stop us from trying, and then just stay open to what can happen. It's really very cool to watch. And I think open is the biggest thing on, it'll take me into another subject, but just in general, if the way that politics has been run isn't getting us what we need. And so I spoke to my husband and I said, listen, I really want to really be open. There's no need in, hiding everything or trying to look like we're perfect, because being open and vulnerable will enable us to help other people and lift them and get resources and destigmatize things and all of that. So that's kind of just my philosophy anyway, but I went on a rabbit trail, but basically jumping in and fixing something that's broken is what has trained me for serving. And even in my business, I've always had that servant heart, to where I take care of my clients to help when someone is seriously sick or their family, someone dies, or help protect their retirement, things like that. It's still always human connection and listening to what they need and helping them figure that out. So it really is great training for serving in government.
And like you were saying, that experience is what makes you like a better representative, because you actually know what the people have to go through every day. So then you know how you can help their needs.
And we ask. That's the biggest thing. Like we started the campaign with our listening tours to say, listen, guys, I've got my own opinions on what needs to be fixed here, but Northwest Georgia, what do you need? And so many people that we talked to said, I've never been asked that. What do you need from Congress? And they're like, oh, I don't know. But that's how we wrote our rural revival plan, is the people of Northwest Georgia helped us write it.
And a couple days ago, you were barred from a town hall held by the incumbent representative in your own hometown of Ringgold. Why do you think she did this, and what is she so afraid of?
Well, I was disappointed in that because, like you said, this is my town, and we can't just listen to people that agree with us, and that's it. I would have liked if it was advertised better, if it was announced to everyone that lives here, no matter the party, in a public forum, so that people can go, because that's our representative's job, is to be the voice of the people. And if you are representing us in a very hateful, shameful way, really, then you should be ready to hear that, with specific questions like, how are you? One question I didn't get to ask, so I asked the person in the lobby who wouldn't let us in, how is she getting anything done or helping anyone here when she's not on committees? So I didn't get that answered, but I don't know what she's afraid of. I think it's being done for the wrong reasons. The stunts, it's ego, is it? But it's certainly not service. It's not thinking of other people. So I don't know if that answered it. I can't put words in her mouth. I have no clue. I don't know.
And I know I keep going back to this, but this just comes back to the representation thing you were talking about. We elected her so that she could represent Northwest Georgia. And that's not really being fulfilled if everyone is not being invited to these town halls that she's holding.
Right. And even for people that didn't elect her, obviously I checked the other box for the gentleman that had to exit the race before Election Day. But it's still our job as an elected official to serve everyone, whether they liked it or, whether they like you or not, or whether they voted for you or not. And so, that's definitely a big change that I will do, is regardless of what party you are or who you voted for or didn't vote for, that you'll matter and you'll be heard. And that's the type of change I want for where my kids live. And will hopefully continue to live and not take my future grandbabies away.
And moving on to something lighter, I've heard that Dolly Parton is one of your favorite singers who you really look up to, and many people don't realize how pop culture can affect the values of all people, whether they're normal citizens like me, and even someone running for a public office like you. How have her songs or personal qualities inspired your life?
I love Dolly anyway, but what's the thing that I love the most is how she takes care of people. She has such a huge heart, and all the hate that's being spread. It's just the opposite of Dolly, when we had fires. Well, I say we, this whole area, I call it we, but, Pigeon Forge and up in the mountains had a huge fire years ago. I can't remember how long it's been, but Dolly paid all the families that lost either their homes or had to come up with like a monthly pay out of her, my kids, when they were little bitty, they got, somehow we found out about the Imagination Library and signed up, and they received a brand new book that said Imagination Library. And Dolly's name wasn't even big on it, I don't think, just somewhere small. Every single month they got a new book and just built their library from Dolly Parton books. So I love how she shows up. She shows up in action. She doesn't give long speeches. In fact, I've heard doesn't even get involved in politics. So she's not a loud person about it, but she shows up in action. And that's what means a lot to me, is not warm, fuzzy words, but doing it. So I think that's more than the music.
And most importantly, it's clear that you want to unseat Representative Green. But after that, what is your vision for Georgia?
I want a place where people have resources, that we are investing in Northwest Georgia, somewhere that there's opportunity, growth and jobs, kids having, more apprenticeship programs or certificate or license programs, and being able to support their family. Like, you always want something better for your kids than what struggle I had. And so it's not just for my kids, it's for everybody to have better opportunities, and for the kids to be able to stay here and raise families and be able to support those families. I want to see, no matter your zip code, that kids get a good education, that we take care of our veterans. Healthcare isn't so out of reach. So there's a lot of basic needs that, maybe a lot of the country doesn't know about, but people that live in rural areas definitely identify with. And we did get West Cobb in the new redistricting. So closer down to Atlanta, it's a different world down there. And we're very grateful to have them, very excited for them to join us in our quest, in our battle to take this feat on. But opportunity, just like a big city, that's what I want to bring here.
Because equality of opportunity is what leads to everyone having the chance to become successful and actually make a living.
Yeah. Just, set people up for success and not struggle, and then the few are able to pull themselves up out of it. That's not what we want.
Thank you so much, Mrs. McCormack, for joining us on today's episode of the show, and I wish you the best of luck for the upcoming elections.
Thank you so much, Krishna. Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.